Bonsoir à tous.
Good evening. So I have the pleasure to be the one concluding this professional afternoon with this keynote to talk about Prisma Media and also to tell you more about my love story with this group. Because this love story led to their first babies, because these are projects in VR. So you probably know Prisma Media, and for those who don't, might have heard about its brands, such as magazines, such as Gala Management, Capital, Geo, but also VSD and other magazines. So I would like to, first of all, to show you a video in order to show you what.
La presse féminine, dans la presse télé, dans la presse santé, dans la presse économique, dans la presse people. Gantz, la science, Gantz, le séducteur, c'est très bien ce que vous, lecteurs ou lectrices, souhaitez lire.
Le monde est une longue et grande histoire qui se raconte avec des instants forts. Des moments qui nous parlent à tous. Des bonheurs, des émotions que l'on partage et qui nous font vibrer. La mission d'un groupe comme le nôtre, c'est de savoir faire rayonner ces instants-là. Depuis bientôt 40 ans, nous vivons au rythme des Français. Écoutons leur passion. Nous avons toujours écrit notre histoire au regard de celle du monde. Et le succès de nos médias tient à notre capacité à comprendre l'époque, à saisir l'air du temps. C'est ainsi que nous vivons au rythme des Français et restons à l'écoute de leur passion. Mais nous aimons aussi regarder vers l'avant, offrir de nouvelles expériences. Transformer nos médias pour parler au plus grand nombre à travers de nouveaux concepts innovants. Oui, c'est notre façon d'avancer. Aujourd'hui, Prisma Media n'a jamais été aussi puissant. Grâce au digital, à la vidéo et toujours avec le print, nous touchons près de 40 millions de Français tous les mois. L'avenir, la meilleure façon de le prévoir, c'est de le créer. Devancez vos attentes, voilà notre mission. Dans un monde où tout se transforme, la passion sera toujours notre moteur. Nous continuerons de vous surprendre, de vous divertir, de vous émouvoir. Mais toujours avec un média d'avance.
So having to be one media advanced of its time, it's Prisma Media's approach, and it's also why we invested in virtual reality, because this is a technological progress and development which is dear to us, and it's also a development which is supported by different figures. As you can see on the screen, this is a Kantar survey, and this is quite interesting for us because indeed we realized that the audience started adhering to this type of new technologies, and through the tested panel of people, 90% of the people who experimented virtual reality were convinced. 90% is a very high number, and we realized that people were eager to have more video, and as part of this survey we also discovered that there are topics people prefer, and these topics are, for example, visualizing a holiday location, simulate a journey in space, underwater, or to attend a fashion show. So this was comforting us in the belief that these are experiences are in line with our brands, and therefore we'll be in a position to suggest something more to our audience. And talking about fashion, the Gala magazine during the Fashion Ring is going to start an experience based on virtual reality. Something which we found interesting in this survey were the prospects for 2022. And what this survey said was that the VR will be followed by video gamers, sorry, and also for in the feature films. And this is important for us because video is really important at Prisma Media. We developed 5 video studios this year only, and we start being producers ourselves. So we are also positioning ourselves in this landscape as a leader in terms of digital content producer, and we're also a leader in terms of audience on this type of content. So it's important for us to find via virtual reality an additional lever. So as we got digital, clearly there is a power here that we want to maintain and to keep on boosting in the future, and this is something which is reflected in these figures. We are reaching out to 20 million of French people every day. Those going through our websites, or the people, 2 million people or days or so are going or looking at our print. So for this we are focusing a lot on VR, and as you will see later on, this is part of our strategy. So before addressing or tackling the heart of our topic, I would like to thank you for your attention. I know it's the last keynote of a long day, and I do promise we are going to have a drink together later on. So the first question I wanted to ask you, and the first one we're going to try and provide an answer to, is why VR? Well, here is a little slide, and I think it's a good way to summarize our feeling when we started working on VR. I know that some people may not be able to read French, so here it says, I believe in the moment. If there is no moment, you need to, at that moment, you need to reach that moment at the moment you want. So it's a beautiful sentence said by Jean-Claude Van Damme, and this is when we start a project, I think it's because it's the right time. It is the time to market aspect you need to bear in mind. You need to, for example, the United States launched something very powerful, so in Europe usually we follow, but it's not only about the moment in time it's done, it's not about our timing only, it's also about being motivated, it's about being inspired. And we didn't want to go into this before we were 100% sure of our inspiration. So what inspired us? First of all, we had to find in virtual reality an added value, which was, and I can see people who recognize themselves on that picture, but so we wanted to find in virtual reality an added value for our brands. So this added value goes via information. So we were described this morning by Noni de la Playa, the commitment that you may have, the involvement you have when you are transferring an information via virtual reality. There is fun also, so there's something which is really playful in the path itineraries and tracks which are suggested by virtual reality, but also interaction. Interactivity is something which is important to us. We want to provide this touch, this additional touch. We don't want to be just observers, to remain in the 360. And to follow up on this topic, I wanted to show you this pyramid, this graph. It's important. It's a way, it's how we assimilate knowledge, because with virtual reality we are entering into a memory-based activity. And for us, what was interesting is the experiencing aspect, because we realized that from the moment experience is at stake, when you receive an information and you practice when you receive this information, our ability to integrate this information is between 25 and 75%. It means that, on the contrary, if you're just facing someone who is teaching you something, like at school, for example, you are between 0 and 25% of ability to integrate it. So it means that with virtual reality, you can transfer or transmit information in a deeper way, and also to create memories. And this is what inspired us. This is at that moment that we said, this is what we want to do. We want to create memories. And this is what led us to that conclusion. The following conclusion is that virtual reality is an activity with memory. And we are opposing ourselves to the sentence said by Patrick Lelay, the French first channel, who said that TV is an activity without memory, not involving memory. So, but I think that with virtual reality, it's the exact opposite of that sentence, and the ability actually through VR to have a positive footprint through this experience for the user. So the question now is the following. All right, we want to create memories, but how can we do that? So here is, we are taking stock of virtual reality since it started to be known, so around 2015. So these are sentences taken from a W3C presentation, and these are sentences which are very interesting because these are articles which are following the same narrative. So say, what about the content? Right, we have headsets, they are very performant, and we are progressing from a technological point of view, but do we find the content which will make everyone buy a headset, put it on its head, and become a virtual reality consumer? So it seems that this question is still pending, is still relevant, because at least actually for Forbes this is still a relevant question, because the sales of the headsets are quite promising, but still they do not enable us, for a group such as ours, to say, right, the large general public is on board, the headsets are being sold, and the virtual reality is part of our habits as users. This is not the case yet. So the next question is the following. This is the question which was also asked by the W3C. How can we easily create a content which will attract a large audience? So to do so, this is the video which was presented at the I/O, and it's also to boost the web VR. This is something which starts on the internet, so we have it on tablets, on our mobile phones, and we can also switch to the cardboard, and it can also be compatible with the VR headset, which is a more complex tool, so to say. So what is interesting with this presentation is that the entry point to virtual reality for a large audience, for a general public, might be the web, might be the internet, and what is taking place around the green web, and experiences which can be launched on the web, on the internet, to then be transposed to the headset, like a launching product, like a kick-off product, might be the solution for us. So at Prisma Media, we are really convinced that this will be kind of adoption funnel, which will be adequate for the general audience. So I think you are very brave, and I thank you for that. So here are other examples of content, because once we've said, right, we want to create memories, we're going to do it through the VR to reach out to a larger audience, what do we put forward? What do we bring about? So we've had the following idea. We said, right, we need to start internally. We need to start preaching out our teams first, and to do it innovatively by getting in touch with those who started working on the VR concept, who started producing already, and we felt it was very important to start with this preaching basis. So then the second stage, which is producing recurring content and also brand content, because the aim is not for us at Prisma Media to do R&D only for the sake of doing R&D. We want to have something that we can market afterwards. So the first step was designing a hackathon, a VR hackathon, and this is something we did with Wanda VR, and they supported us in realizing reports, 360 interactive reports, and this was a very important stage. We were scaling up our competence, and this enabled us to find solutions to address journalistic topics through VR, and we had this layer of interactivity which we thought was important. So this is now a short video summarizing 2 days which were
C'est un peu intrusif, hein.
Mesdames et messieurs les jurés.
Ah putain, c'est tellement tentant.
On a remis le prix donc à Oasis.
On est bien fatigué.
Yes, we were tired. Indeed, 48 hours. We did not sleep at all. We produced 5 films. So I mean, designing, shooting, editing, and reports of virtual reality films, actually. And this was very interesting. And these are projects that you can find on the Wanda VR lab application. And this was something which was very inspiring for our team. And it was followed by a design lab with our subsidiaries. And this was built with teams of different members with different competences, with different backgrounds. So we had programmers, people from the marketing departments. We had also people, digital project managers. So all these people worked together in order to try and produce a concept within one single day, so within one single afternoon, actually. So I wanted to present this concept. This is a curiosity house, and this is a house which is going to tease your ability to be curious. So you will be welcomed by other people, so you will not have the feeling that you're haunting this house. So people are going to talk to you, and you will be invited to discover knowledge. So here you have an example of the lounge. So you have knowledge which will be scientific. Others have to do with encyclopedia, or those which can be difficult to rank or to categorize. And the idea was to have this located in one virtual reality space. So what was behind this project? We wanted to drive something from, or to take something from a project. So the objective, the challenge was to try and anticipate, to create a standard pathway. So we based our work on the probabilistic editing, and we tried to identify what was the typical, the standard itinerary of a user in that house, in which will lead that user to acquire more knowledge. So then the standard itinerary within the house, and this is where we think and hope that this will be interesting, that we're going to compare this with the actual pathways of all the users within that experience. So here, as you can see, you have the lounge, the living room, and which is the where you have different point of focus, and in the window you have all the knowledge which are being displayed once you have selected them with your eye. So the idea is to test the curiosity of the user and to observe the different pathways, because of course you have knowledge which are hidden, you have knowledge you will have to look for and that are not as highlighted as others. So it's a way to test their ability to find this knowledge. And as you can see, there are two also icons or two identification which enables you to locate on the back at the left hand side, which is locating you in the house, and the other one is a kind of a way to measure with the brain and to test your level of learning, how much you're learning. So then you have access to a control center, and this is actually displaying your own pathway. It's your own pathway, not someone else's. So here you will have your itinerary through the different rooms, how much time you spent in each of the rooms, the knowledge you looked at more. Maybe you are more interested in academic knowledge or in something more entertaining, and then you will have the ability to test your ability to learn this knowledge, to memorize this knowledge, and you will end up winning badges which will confirm your ability to remember. So we call this a brain play, because you always have to find a gameplay and an experience. So the idea was to focus on learning through this project. So we thought it could be interesting because there was a true added value for the user, which was having fun, learning, and compare oneself, because we thought this would be a social experience at the end of the day, and also to assess oneself. So, and for us on our side, the benefit would be to be able to use recurring content, because as I said, the whole knowledge is within 300 videos that we already have, to extend this experience over time and in the time spent to create data, VR data, which is not only used by us to know what are the itineraries, but also for the user to know what type of brain profile the user has, and also to market this space depending on how much time people spend in these different areas, because the aim, of course, is a business and to derive business from this through this experience. So the leverage, this is the curiosity concept, and of course we thought that the first level of pride is that everyone wants to be told that you are clever, you are smart. So we want to know what is you would like to know what is your brain profile. So we hope that this experience will be appealing to our audience, and at least it is a VR experience which is not a linear experience, and this is what we were aiming for. I'm now going to change the topic, because this was a focus mainly on Curiosity House, and I'm going to show you other projects, to tell you about other projects, ongoing projects, such as the Gala project. So you have to know that Gala is organizing on a regular basis live shootings in a flat which is in our premises, which with the showcases of French and international artists, and these showcases we would like to have them in a 360 display in order to put forward a new experience to our audience, to the Gala audience. And also another topic, so we have striking images, 360 images which are really striking, so it will be under the MSD brand. So this is the adventure of explorers, so, and this is a sensing or drafting an inventory of the planet in 4K, and this whole material will be used in 360 in order to provide images which will be breathtaking. So, and we are really looking forward to presenting this project to our audience. And there are other brand content projects, and because of course specific operations are important for us as well, and we've been working on more collective approaches or collective experiences, such as The Enemy, and this is going to take a bit more time, but which are going to be concepts based on quality and for one-off situations or operations. And I wanted to conclude by talking about neon and about augmented reality, because it's something we do not forget in our group. We have 2 editions of that magazine which will be published, which will be completely designed with augmented reality. I don't know if you know neon. This is for millennials, and this is already encompassing a lot of levers about augmented reality, useless or knowledge, so things that work very well in augmented reality. So we'll really go to see the release of this edition. So just to summarize, information, playful itineraries, create memories for our audience. And what I can tell you is that we're going to make our best to keep that promise to be present in the autumn with contents that we strongly believe in. Thank you very much. Well, any questions? Philippe Ornstein, good evening. You mentioned brand contents and specific operations. Do you think there is a future for the commercial model for pre-roll? Yes. Yes, there is future in this area. All the more as we are looking at what's happening in the United States. So you have companies such as Hamiviat, which is already working with the New York Times, and they are already putting forward a pre-roll in 360. So these are already being developed, and we are going to develop this as well, because the advertisement model has to be part of our approach. And we have an approach which is carried out in parallel. So we have one which is based on a more editorial aspect, another one which would be on the advertisement side. So, but monetizing is part of our strategy. So we work also on with the universities. We're also working with M6 channel. I don't know if that answered your question. Yes. Another question? Good evening. Thank you very much for your presentation. I wanted to know, in terms of your team of journalists, how are you going to train them? Because at Euronews we trained 14 journalists. It took a lot of time. So I wanted to know whether you have ideas, because you talk about web VR. It's more complex than just 360. So how are you going to train them in order for them to be fully involved and with the right skill? So of course it's going to take time. Train journalists is something that we start working on. We've set up workshops per services, so the journalists are being trained on writing, designing, shooting. But as regards the web VR, this is something we're going to do with external third-party companies. So because we don't have the resources internally to launch this type of project. This will be a strategy which will run in parallel. So we will increase the competence within our teams internally, and we're also going to start projects with third parties, with other companies. So we have the will to do so. We have ideas, but we are compelled to use the knowledge of others to achieve our objectives. But the objective also to reach out to the international level. This is why we had this hackathon, and it's where we work with third parties in order to be able to observe as much as we can, and also to train, to practice as well, because I think it has to do a lot with practicing. Good evening. Arte and TF1 channels are starting working with VR. M6 channel as well. So what about virtual reality in terms of content at M6 channel? Well, I cannot talk here on behalf of M6 channel because we're cousins. Obviously we're part of the same family, but we do not share much around our strategies, so I can't speak on their behalf. But maybe your question was more really specific on M6, or maybe on the media ecosystem regarding VR, because I can give you an answer on this, because of course there are clear ambitions. TF1 launched a lot of projects on the entertainment side. Arte channel are well ahead of the others. And what I can say, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Arte either, but I know that they're they're really interested in web VR, and this will be something which on which we will focus in the future, because it's a window for the general public which is interesting. And of course we also have editorial lines which are different, and our priorities are different as well. So our priority, for example, is content, storytelling, and this is what is giving an added value to our brands. So our ambition is not technologically oriented. our added value is around writing. So we are going to support our work and our ambition on the ability of other companies who have the technology knowledge, but we have this intelligent support. Whether we are going to enter into competition with others, I don't know. Maybe we will, but it's all good. It's quite sound and healthy for the VR, because it means that we will have advanced projects, that contents will be published, because what we lack at the moment is content, and maybe we'll have this content we're waiting for, which will make people buy headsets, so we would be happy. One last question, maybe? Yes, good evening. In terms of contents, I would like to know whether, of course, you start with the print, maybe, or how do you work? How do you address the two? Because you said the content is going to bring the audience to buy headsets, because I am too convinced that you will have more people buying headsets, as they will also be more advanced and more performant. So, but what type of content are you thinking about? Well, in terms of contents, we need to make sure that the contents we are going to produce, or which we'll be buying, because we have 30 magazines, so we have 30 different editorial approaches. So it provides us with the ability to access to a lot of different contents. So to try and answer your question now, at Prisma Media, we are not going to go for artistic, experimental concepts or projects. I thought so. But it's similar to what I said earlier. It's about information, it's about entertainment, and all this is being addressed in a way which is more or less serious, depending on the magazines or on the brands. But our aim is to find the best way to tell a story. And to do so, we need to find the right concept. Maybe Curiosity House is one of these concepts, but we need to design concepts to convey this. Well, it's that provides information. So your ambition is to have this information being read in a different way, or to sell more prints, more magazines, or is it the print leading to the VR? Because currently we see that the print is leading to augmented reality, for example. So do you think, or is closely linked to augmented reality, do you think that this is what is going to progressively eliminate the print? Well, the death of the print has been announced for decades, and so we developed our brand on the digital side, because we know that the print is not as appealing as it used to be, but it is still present, so we still believe in the print format. But we developed the digital side because we think it's important. We're going to develop the virtual reality, the augmented reality, but I don't think there is a true competition between those. Apart from augmented reality, which is directly linked to the print, there is no other direct consequence of one on the other. So as we are saying, we are going to make sure that we are always one media ahead of the others, or ahead of time. So we are going to try and tell this through virtual reality. So this is what is at stake for us. We want to identify or to present a content in a different way. It's true that you don't write the same way for the print as for the web, as for the internet, as for the virtual reality. So this is what is at stake. There is no true competition between the different media. It's complementary. Well, I agree. I don't think they are competing. What about the business model? Well, I think this is the question we all ask ourselves. How are we going to derive money from this? There are different ways. It can be done through sponsoring. This is what works the best on the recurring content. It's also what's the easiest to get and to obtain. And we talked about the pre-roll, which will bring about solutions such as Omnivirt. And we have also brand content. There is also a very powerful team producing 360 interactive content for the brands. So what else? Well, freemium as well. Freemium, if our content are great, well, maybe we could sell them piece by piece, so to say. So these different business models, this is a business model that exists, but we need to be able to be appealing for the public, for the audience, because this is why we believe in this web VR, because we need to find a way to drive the user or the reader towards that content. So how are we going to be appealing to the larger public with an interesting content which will lead them to buy an additional media?
Sort of a twofold question. When do you think the market will reach a critical size? And second question, how does a large company such as Prisma intend to fight off and fend off the predominance of the GAFAs, Google, Apple, etc., in terms of the income that you can derive from that? Well, I'd like to be able to see into the future, but well, we probably have estimates, says the man. Well, we have, estimates for 2020. We have this sort of 5-year visibility. If so, it's actually very difficult to predict the future that way. Now you said fend off or fight the GAFAs. I don't think that's necessarily the way to go about it in terms of our positioning. I think we're seeing something quite interesting with the GAFA at the moment. They have created initially very closed ecosystems for virtual reality, whereby the headset manufacturer was also the owner of the store where you would find proprietary content. So it was a very closed environment, but it's coming apart thanks to WebVR. Mozilla has started, then Google followed suit, then Facebook, and they thought, well, this is not quite working in the end, so let's go the open source route and let's do WebVR. So to us, that's good news, because initially they had started by trying to put a lid on that, and so they did not quite elicit enough interest. So it's open to everyone now. Well, let's not be fooled. I mean, we need to think of how we can make money of it, how we can structure our departments, our companies, and this is something that keeps us very busy, of course. And you also have the gaming systems, the consoles that can be added to the mix. And you can also have access to WebVR and, to VR and 360 on your TV screen. So